Ready to embrace the magical side of life, where anything is possible and the infinite is accessible to all? Let's have a conscious conversation about what's going on in the world, in your life, and your relationship from the expanded perspective of your soul. The path to awareness begins and ends in the heart. So let's take it there, one step at a time, and learn to cultivate magic in your life every single day. In each episode, we share a collective space in which we discover the unique facets of our own magic and embody our superhuman qualities by humbly exploring how it's super simply to be human. Hosts Kai and Del co-create a magical experience to remind you that you are magical as fuck. Now, be unleashed. This is our daily magic.
It's been a while since I wore that Kobe jersey. Just look at the intro. It's so cool to like look at videos or photos from different parts of your life, because then you get to see different aspects of your journey. So looking at that intro, we did that video creation like was it years ago? So it's pretty cool. And to see the expansion for us to be able to have our podcast today for magical guests like we have today. So with that being said, welcome everyone to another exciting episode of our Daily Magic Podcast. Our Daily Magic Podcast is magical conversations in which you get to see other guests display their unique expression of magic in the world. Our firm believer, and that is why the first word in our Daily Magic is R, because this is going to be a co-creation. And I'm grateful to be part of this. And our intention with this is whoever sees this, one, you get to see how magic could be displayed in so many infinite ways. But then two, you can be able to integrate something that resonates with you with this conversation, because I know there's going to be something from this magical conversation that resonates with you, and you can take it for yourself and integrate more magic in your world. So I am one half of the host, Del, and
I'm Kai. And I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce Samantha Louise. Samantha is a leadership cultivator guiding girls and young women to become natural-born leaders. She's a 2016 Minnesota Teacher of the Year, oh my gosh, with a master's in educational leadership centered on mindfulness-based teaching and learning to inform educational system change. Her approach to leadership and learning offers hands-on experiences for girls and women to develop selfhood for self-leadership, sisterhood for healthy relationships, and leaderhood to inspire change in the world. Every workshop, retreat, and lesson that she designs incorporates whole person well-being, cultural, mind-body science, and interfaith spiritual practices. From a farm in rural America, she was a small town girl. That sounds like a song. She was a small town girl living in the world. She was a small town girl with a worldwide vision to transform leadership development and personal empowerment for the next generation of Femme leaders from every corner of the globe. Her mission is to help young women design personal ecosystems, I like that, through bio-cognition that rewrites society's unwritten rules. That is potent. I'm noting that. bio-cognition that rewrites society's unwritten rules and cultural expectations so they can become natural-born leaders. Hello, welcome, Samantha Louise, Powerhouse.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I can tell this is going to be really fun.
Oh, yeah.
So, Minnesota, are you a Vikings fan?
Yes. Not as much as I used to be when I was younger, but I am. Yeah, of course.
Yes! I had to get that out of the way. Shout out to all of our scholars out there.
Yes.
So, how did all of this come about? I mean, people can come out of the womb and be like, I'm inspiring global change, making sure that everyone's a natural born leader. But how did it occur for you?
I love that. Yeah, I think I was born with some of it, right? I think I was born with some of these wonderings of, I always wondered about differences between people, and I wondered what brought people together, and I wondered what, when I was a kid is when I really started to wonder, like, what could an authentic, supportive community feel like? Because I think I always, growing up in a farm community, uh, like exceptional containers of what you should be, who you shouldn't be, who you can't be, the things you can do or can't do in the world, and even the titles of, like, it's okay to be a teacher or a pastor or a doctor, just as simple examples, because everybody knows what those titles are. But to be an entrepreneur or to be a visionary or to be a writer or to be an artist, like, I know it's in every community, but I think it's different. We experience it at a different level in our soul in our different cultural communities, right? So when I was in middle school or high school, I got to start traveling a little bit around the world without my parents. And it was the first time I started to question more about, like, I wondering why I didn't feel like I belonged where my roots were, and going other places and finding other people my age that were saying the same things, having that same kind of dissonance, knowing that they love where they're from, yet they don't belong there. So I think for me, it was really when I started to travel and get even more curious, and beyond curious, becoming dissatisfied, disappointed, and disillusioned with the way that the world was, seeing that adults weren't creating space for kids to be able to explore who they really were and what they wanted to become in the world. For me, I think that was the time or the season of my life when all of this really started, the quest or the questions about how can I help life be different for other kids? Or how can I help life specifically be different for girls that come from small rural communities who don't fit into the mold and don't want to be what everyone's expecting them to be? Yeah. So that was the beginning, all those questions and all the dissatisfaction and heartbreak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how has that allowed you to become who you are today? How do you continue that evolution?
Well, I think as I continue to meet mentors or mm, other people that are awake and aware, there's always this element of, like, showing up in the world and being positive, but discerning between the moments of when pain is present, like, you can't positive your way through it all the time. So when you're in pain or when you're in some of that dissatisfaction, actually using some of that frustration, anger, whatever it is, that emotion that's inside of you, to direct what's next, right? Instead of the positivity factor of just kind of push it under the rug and move on, actually use it and learn about who else might be experiencing this, that I can help inform a different outcome for them. And every layer going deeper and deeper and deeper, finding that anytime I try to get out of that emotionality, something usually blows up in my life. And I think, why didn't I just stay there a little bit longer and deal with it in that moment, right? Feel the emotion at a deeper level and understand the message that's coming through it. right? When it's so emotionally raw, sometimes it can be like we're in that pre-linguistic kind of primal state of being and can't always even say how we feel. But to stay with it long enough to figure out what's going on, to create a solution, to co-create a solution, as you two say so beautifully. Um, I think that's where in my life right now, I just every season I get more passionate about the co-creation of disrupting imposition, disrupting expectations, and getting people together to just be like, you don't have to dress a certain way, you don't have to use a certain language, but together we can figure out what these underpinnings are that are making us all feel like we're not okay, like we don't belong, like we have to be a different way in order to be accepted. So lots and lots of different skills and modalities along the way, but that's been the essence of all of it. Hmm.
Can you think of a vivid example, of where this has occurred in your life, where you're like, man, I got just a little bit longer, and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I think about, I mean, everyone has gone to school in their life at some point in time. So when I became a teacher, first of all, I never wanted to be a teacher because everybody in my family is either an educator or a farmer. And so I grew up and I thought, I'm not going to be any of these things. I want to be something different. I'm going to stand apart. And I went to college and met some professors who started talking to me about a new way of teaching, right? To be an advocate for equitable education, to be an advocate for systems change. And I thought, okay, I think I do want to do this after all, but I'm not going to be just the regular teacher, right? And when I started my first job, I was doing what I was trained to do in college, which was get involved in policy change, get involved in community engagement, and bringing community into um, voicing their opinions on how the school could be different, how programming could be different, and exploring culture change within a school. But I didn't know that other people didn't want that. Like it was just normal for me to think we should make this better. And I started to see how unprofessional other teachers were and how other teachers really didn't care if their students were successful or not. And how some teachers had like this status of X number of kids should fail every class, X number of kids should get this grade, X number of kids should be highly successful. Otherwise, I'm not a good teacher. Like some weird model that I don't know whoever taught that to another person, but I started to see this stuff. And I mean, I was 22, 23 years old, and all of a sudden, um, I noticed that there was just like this weird energy, this weird dynamic when I started to like, I'd go into the teacher's lounge or I'd go print something off or I'd go ask another teacher a question. All of a sudden, like bit by bit, it's like people were like this space was created between us where previously I could go talk to them and get to know them. And all of a sudden, there was just this invisible barrier and I had no idea what it was. But as I kept doing the work that I thought was so good in the world, so valuable and so needed, just sabotage, betrayal, petitions in the community that I was a horrible, awful person, that I harassed children, that I was a bully in the school district. These crazy things started coming up. And it was my first taste of the whole idea that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Or for a snack. Like we can do all of these things that are theoretical and methodological to make change happen. But what I didn't realize at that time was the desire to change and be better in the world isn't a common desire had by everybody. So it was a really, really weird and painful wake up call to say, right, if you're going to offer something or bring your skills and talent somewhere, bring it to the right table. Find your community first. And unfortunately, a lot of us go through that where we feel, right, we offer our gifts and then we're hurt for being ourselves. or somehow our character is all of a sudden in question because we want to do things differently. So
Mhm.
I hope that answered the question. I'm just all of a sudden I'm just keep going with it. But I think it was, yeah, when I was first in the educational setting as a teacher instead of a student, where finally I thought I had authority to do something new and different, but I learned really quickly I didn't. There's that invisible culture, the unwritten rules that keep
Mhm.
people in their place.
Yeah. And besides just what you experience, you can see that on a collective scale as well, in which people want to stay in the status quo about things or stay in a box because this is the way we've been taught, like the American dream for life
Yes.
type of thing, or um, even just different experiences, believe religiously or spiritually a certain way in this box. This is the way of doing it. This is the only
Mm-hmm.
way of doing it. And never question it. You just do it. Maybe got passed on to you from generations to generations. So you got conditioned at a young age that this is the way life needs to be for you. This is the way you're supposed to do it as well. And a lot of us don't question, or maybe we did question it at such a young age, but then we got challenged for that, and or maybe told, no, you're not supposed to think like that. That's give it up. You're supposed to do this and do this. And for you, you actually became a pioneer for this new way. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, when you're challenging the system, those who believe in the system, they're gonna come at you because you're pretty much challenging their world. This is their system, and like it's if people feel like their system is being taken away and they don't want it to be, it's like, oh my god, I gotta fight it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like every single ounce of their being, all of a sudden, every cell fires up and says, all right, it's fight mode.
Yeah,
We're going to push back because this is the only way,
yeah.
because it's survival. Instead of looking at could we possibly thrive as a community in whatever context we're looking at? Or should we just keep going? We made it another year. Check the boxes, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I personally feel like one of the things that needs to get tackled as a collective is the notion that we all have to believe things a certain way and we all have to do things one way to actually get to this place of peace or whatever
Mhm.
we're looking for. It seems like a lot of people would like to actually have a peace that's coming together, but it's like if you want somebody to believe a certain way and that's it, it's going to be some issues in that because there's always an infinite way of doing things. And I feel like we're in this space right now that's starting to unravel with this. And definitely want to hear your perspective on this as well. I definitely
Yeah.
want to get to some women's topics in this conversation.
Well, absolutely. I mean, where do we even begin is one of the questions, right? But I think oh my gosh, there's so many things to talk about. And let's talk about the 4th of July yesterday and um just the unique perspectives that people have on what should we be doing? What should we be talking about? What should we be thinking about on the 4th of July? And we can go from super historical patriotic perspectives of being grateful that we are free in this country to very modern belief systems. Yeah, exactly. To say what is freedom actually and who is free and when are you free?
Mhm.
What does all of that look like? And I think I saw a lot of men and women both, but especially women on social media yesterday asking those questions and maybe not asking them directly, but putting them out through graphics, through pictures, through stories that they've told about, right? Like based on what's just happened in our own country recently with Roe versus Wade.
Mm.
Who is free right now? If
Mhm.
I'm not free to handle and take care of my own body, am I free? You know? And
Mm.
seeing that it's not just adults talking about this right now, but kids are starting to get into it and ask the same questions because they can feel it. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a big part of how you said things are unraveling.
Mhm.
I think kids especially until they've been challenged or groomed or conditioned to not feel those things or ignore those feelings anymore. I think that's so much of where the health disparities, the health concerns, and the huge rise in mental, emotional, spiritual dissonance is happening right now. Is
Mm-hmm.
that there is an unraveling. There's like the tipping point is happening.
Yeah.
But I think maybe there's still such a collective pull back to what always has been instead of what could be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That it's not just in our heads, it's not just around us in nature, it's down to our cellular level as well. Like people are getting sick, people are unwell and in dis-ease because of these cultural, societal, and political divisions that we're all living in. And it's within our own houses a lot of times. So we can look at it on the big grand scale,
Yeah.
but how many families right now are being divided because of belief systems
Yeah.
instead of the acceptance of what you said? You can only believe this way. You can
Yeah.
only perceive this way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I just had a conversation about that too last week when I was talking about healing, and a person asked me the question about how do you feel that like the conflict that's going on in the world, like how can that get handled? And I'm like, personally, I feel like the most important conflict to handle is the one at home that's going on, and obviously even deeper than that, the most one is a conflict with yourself, but then also healing your home,
Mhm.
because like what you're saying, all these different beliefs and these conditions and family members not speaking to each other based upon their beliefs because one person decides to change their beliefs and things like that, or even the shame and the guilt that one person may feel for deciding to choose something different. And I'm pretty sure for you, when you actually made a decision to do something different, was there any like backlash that you received in your farm community, your family? Like, what happened for you when you're like, okay, I'm going to do something different?
I think the first thing I experienced was just this, like I explained before, that distance that I felt between people,
Mm-hmm.
where it wasn't just with my fellow teachers.
Mm-hmm.
It was everywhere. And still to this day, I still live in a small rural community with my husband. And it's the community I first started teaching in, and I'm still not welcomed here. Like
Wow.
it's 12 years later, but there's still people that make comments to me. There's still people that, like, if my husband and I go to town to get something, like we'll go get supper or something, people come in between us, put their back to me and talk to him. So it's like this residual effect. It still happens, but it's even at the family level, to the other part of your question, where there's always just that, like, you're the odd one, you're the weird one. We can ask certain questions that are okay if we happen to see you, but for the most part, I've learned to disengage, which has been the hardest part of this journey. Is just saying, if I can't be myself, then I can't be there.
Mm.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? I just can't be connected. And I don't know if that'll ever change in my life, but I think that was the biggest change, because I was so involved in my community, in my family, and in whatever it was. So to kind of withdraw and have to go find the people that love me and honor me and respect me for who I am virtually, like COVID was great for that. Because I was one of those people that was already trying to find where I fit next. Like, who am I and where am I going? Because I don't fit here. I don't belong here. This is bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think that's been the toughest part, but just the kind of weird questions that people give you when you start to think differently. And it's the flip of, when you're thinking differently, you want to offer open-ended questions to get more perspectives. And I found the very first experience in this transformation process for me, or really standing out and being different, was the questions of, like, but don't you think you should come back to thinking this way? Right? In essence, but wouldn't it feel better if you could be part of this community again, like fill in the blank community again. And every time I got one of those questions, I was like, number one, you're not even allowing me to say no. It just has to be, yes, I'm with you, or
Yeah.
you look like you're a jerk. So
Mm-hmm.
I think between like navigating questions that, uh, like the kind of like a double bind question, you're wrong and you're wronger, or you're right and you're righter, to
Yeah.
pull you one way or the other, and get the feel for like, is she lost? Is she crazy? What is going on with her?
Mm.
And finally, like it's been going on long. It's been going on long enough that people are finally realizing, oh, maybe that's just her. She is just that weirdo. We'll just leave her alone and give her her space. You know what I mean? But then you find your community, and you find people that send you a message every day, and they become your family. That's not your family. And then the next layer out, that when you get together and talk, it's like the friends where if you haven't talked for 2 or 3 weeks, but you haven't skipped a beat when you get back together,
Mm-hmm.
finding that, coming full circle and coming back to, where do I belong? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know exactly in regards to the people who ask if you're lost or something, but that loss aspect definitely resonated with me in regards to I grew up in religion and I chose now more universal type of beliefs about God, like of God being infinite. There's infinite ways to connect with it. And I've been told that I was lost now. And I'm doing the devil's work because I'm
Mhm.
loving everyone. So I'm like, at first it was triggering, but then I'm like, okay. It reminded me of like in school being a kid and someone call you duty head type of thing. I think you're a duty head. Okay, cool. Obviously, when I was young, I'm like, no, you're a duty head, and like arguing. So that part of me would show up like, no, I'm not. I'm not lost. You're lost. So, but then, like you say, like letting it go because like it's their own journey, but it helps you to like learn more anchoring in and actually giving yourself permission to be yourself unconditionally. And
Mhm.
before, like the same thing, I felt like I needed to be a certain way around people besides being myself because I felt that me being myself is it wouldn't be able to allow me to be accepted by others. And that was a fear of mine. I wanted to be accepted by everyone. But then on a deeper level, I was using that as a substitute because I wasn't accepting myself yet
Mhm.
fully. And it started to shift because the more I started to accept myself more, the less I needed from everyone else. And also that acknowledgement that some people just aren't going to accept me. And even on a deeper level, maybe people even close to me may not even accept me for being me. But
Mhm.
that family thing, like you mentioned, because like for me, I feel like me being myself authentically accepted it, my soul family shows up around me.
Yes, there we go. Those are the words for it. Yes.
Yeah, because we could fall into the illusion that family just means the people that we were born into in this human body,
Mhm.
and obviously those are soul family as well to help us teach lessons. But then there's a deeper soul family as well who are here on the same mission as you, who decided to come here.
Yes. And that's where, again, there's the unspoken, the unwritten rules, and the unspoken connections between us, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where the unwritten rules control us in a certain way, but the unwritten connections between us are the moments of freedom that, like, those invisible chains can be
mm-hmm,
dissolved and dissipated, and practice moving on, or make the
mm-hmm,
decision to move on.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really good point. And thinking about the word practice, I don't know why that just came up all of a sudden, but sometimes we have to practice we do have to practice identifying our soul family. Because that's another part of this journey, is getting caught up in finding people who use common language with you, But if you get into it, all of a sudden you realize they're using the words, but they're not living the messages.
Oh my God.
And that
I just
one's
did,
hard,
yeah,
right? Because you so want to
yeah,
belong with someone. You want to be okay. You want to
yeah,
trust another person.
yeah. I just did a video on that too yesterday of words and actions. How words are just words if there's not aligned actions with it. Meaning, like, we can speak, like you said, the language, but then your actions and what you do shows exactly what you're embodying. We can say whatever we want to say, but then for me, and that's just my perspective, your actions will dictate what you really are embodying.
Yes.
It just resonated with exactly what you just said.
Yeah. I love it. And I love language. I love to explore the where did a word come from? What were the roots? What's the historical perspective or context even? And um last year, it was about this time last year, I was having this conversation with myself and my husband, and I said for the next year, I think that my phrase, my mantra for the next year has to be acta non verba. So it's action beyond words, right? So to stop telling people what I'm going to do, stop laying out for the world what my future is, what's in store in my future, and just kind of withdraw, go back into myself, and then go do it. Yeah. So I think that's beautiful. I love it. Mm.
That's what they say that the ram does. The ram takes several steps back before charging forward.
Cram.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That makes me feel a lot better too. And right, any of the phases of life where we do that, because we all have to at some point. Take a little
Yeah,
step back, breathe, and then prepare.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
And even just that space gives you enough room to generate some kind of momentum. Because we have all kinds of momentum that's working on us and influencing us in this moment. We've got physical momentum, we've got emotional momentum, we've got spiritual momentum. And if you want to pivot in your life, it's going to take a lot of force to stop the momentum of who it is that you've been being. Imagine trying to stop a car after it's been rolling all the way down a hill for several hundred feet, as opposed to if you get right in front of it, as it starts to move. So when you're doing something like this important inner work that you're talking about doing, withdrawing and going inside for a moment, that's the real work that's going on right there. Everything else after that it's a piece of cake.
Yeah. It's a really powerful imagery and symbolism in the analogy that you just shared. And it makes me wonder, again, going back to this theme in my life about supporting kids and empowering kids, something that I love to ask people. So I'm going to ask the two of you. What do you guys think are the gaps in youth development? Like, what's happening in our world that as adults we're coming into adulthood having to learn for ourselves who we are and having to learn for ourselves what a leader is, redefining what leadership is. I think that's part of the dissonance in the world right now, is that leaders aren't leading, obviously. So, what is it in childhood that we are missing? Or what's the gap in empowerment for kids? I mean, there are so many, but I'd love to hear from the two of you. What's the critical first thing to change?
There's two that comes to the top of my mind, when you start bringing this up. And one is co-creation. There's so much individuation right now. Oh, I can get this many likes on my profile, and that means that I'm doing this. And, it's like, well, there's also other people in the world that are also looking to get their needs met. How are you interacting with them? how are you actually being in a societal context or a community context in the world? Are you out to, do X, Y, and Z for yourself? And do you understand what your influence means and how it impacts the world? Do you know how powerful you are? So, being able to play nicely in the sandbox, has a totally different meaning these days, because a lot of times there is no sandbox unless we make one on Zoom or TikTok. So there's that. And then the other word is play. People are getting really serious. 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds are really serious about their social profiles and their gaming and, what they have and, what they don't have. And it's like, you've got many more years before you even have to think about, doing this kind of adulting, but you want to do it now. And it's like, just play. Because that's gonna be one of your most important tools as you continue into adulthood. And if it's not cultivated now, then when is it going to be cultivated?
Before I get into that part, when you mentioned the leadership and not being leadership there, this is my perspective. I believe that there is leadership, but it's all about where is the beingness of that leadership coming from? The beingness of the egoic conditioned mind of leadership. This is what it needs to be, this way, and if it's not this way, then we're gonna throw it out, type of thing. And it's like the rambling that you see it on both sides of the equation. There's some valid points on both sides, but then it's saying like, it has to be this way fully, and that's it, or this way, and it keeps going this, as opposed to coming in a space of leadership in which all the leaders can share their amazing ideas and find out what resonates for the greater good, and instead of what ideas are resonating with an egoic agenda, like i.e. the whole abortion thing. I mean, I can totally hear where they're coming from, but then also there's people who have the freedom of choice to do the other side as well. So holding that space, like, okay, do as you please. It's your body, free will. And these people are playing God with these laws and saying like, this is it. And no, as you can see, something's not working when there's like people opposing against it. There's like a battle going on, type of thing. But to answer your question now about the childhood or children, it's the same. It reminds me of the same thing like I was just talking about, the egoic conditioned leadership. So a lot of times with the kids, they're being conditioned, and this is all of us. We've been conditioned from our parents, who've been conditioned by their parents, who've been conditioned by their parents, and it keeps going on and going on and going on. And what I believe is allowing the space for the child to explore life, allowing an opportunity for the kid to learn about themselves, an opportunity for the kid to really connect to who they are beyond this role. Like, okay, go to school, graduate, go to college, get a job. It's like the system, the American dream system type of thing. And also allowing kids to learn emotional intelligence at a young age and to cultivate that, because you're seeing in the world what happens when we don't learn emotional intelligence, because there's a lot of people out there who are expressing their emotions in an unintelligent way into the world. And I'm not going to go into that. You can just check the news and everything else. But learning these simple things and growing, and also to be able to realize that it's not just you into this world. There's a collective together. And also collectively, we have our different beliefs. It's totally fine. I was just talking about that in regards to like a favorite toy, and how a kid would say, my toy is cooler than your toy. And the kid's like, no, it's not. The kid had a little scuffle, maybe, but then they're fine after that. You don't see the kid going on social media talking about, oh man, all kids suck because this and this or whatever it may be. They're able to work through it. But somehow what happened is that conditioning that doesn't allow that space of how kids are able to process emotions and to learn more about themselves. They're told from parents, this is what you need to do. This is the way. I've seen it numerous times in which like potential coaching clients for me, the person that's reaching out is the parent saying like, my kid needs to get coaching, when the kid doesn't want to get coaching. The kid actually just want to be accepted by their parents, that they want to do things the way that they want to do it in their way. But that, bless the parents' heart, they're doing it out of love because they feel like this is the best thing for my kid to succeed. But then, like you're saying, the entrepreneurship type of thing, there's other ways for success as well. But allowing your kid to flourish and to grow into their own, and to actually live life in their own unique way and bring it out and hold that space for them. I obviously offer them some guidance. Like, I'm not going to tell my son, like, oh yeah, go across the street and see what happens. Offering some knowledge, suggestion about things like that, but then allowing that space for him to explore things and to process things in his own way, and not scold him. I mean, I'm still working on that, but I'm way better with that now than I was before, and just allowing him to flourish in his own unique way and to learn that discernment about things. Learn how to discern.
I think that's awesome. I love like going back to the word play. I'm thinking about adventure, and then with the whole idea of emotional processing, I think about the word voice. So like similar iterations for me, that are solutions. Come up with those exact same examples. I think it's amazing. And it's not like it's the most complex changes that need to happen in order for these shifts to be realized. But like you said, with the example of parents and adults, sometimes we are the ones in the way of our own healing, our own next step. Like, well, just pick your foot up and put it over the line and then you'll be there. But we're looking at everyone else that's, well, they're holding me back and they're pushing me the other direction. No, nobody is. Right? It's just that one, again, that simple action. Maybe not always easy, but just go do it.
Putting that mirror down. Oh, yeah, it's easy to project than to like introspect, like go within and like really take a look at it and ask that curious question, like, what if it's me that's holding me back? Like, whoa, no, it's my ex did, it's the government, it's my skin color, it's all these different things out there, as opposed to going within and really asking that question. It's a great explorative question to actually do that, though.
Yeah, it's interesting also then in that exploration, the self-exploration, the question of like, how do I know when I have reached my destination? When we go inward and we have intentions and goals for ourselves, it's different than the outward kind of goals and objectives that have all these, right, the traditional logical minded, all of the measurements and milestones that get us somewhere. But when we're having these existential journeys inside of ourselves, we're still in the world. We're still doing this with all these other human beings. So how do we know when we've gotten where we're going? And how do we know that we're using our gifts like to full capacity, or are there again seasons for our gifts to be used and new ones to be developed, and some of those like other tools to maybe be let down and left behind at a certain point?
I feel like when we beat it is when we're there. You know, there's a whole bunch of milestones, that we can have. Oh yeah, well, I felt this transmutation, of this feeling, and I opened up this chakra and balanced this. And when we get to actually be the resolution of what it was that we were searching for in the first place. And a lot of times it may not be immediately noticeable. And at the same time, it may even be instantaneous.
That's awesome. I love that. It's making me think about a lot of people that that I've met in my life, who want to take the next step, it's like they're recognizing some kind of dissatisfaction or some kind of injustice in their life or the world around them. But the question then, because of the conditioning, becomes, what else is there? Like, we see our horizon, but then what's beyond the horizon that's going to take us to the next place? Um, thinking thinking just about, again, the simplicity of what we can do to move into that next phase, to take take up the limits and move into limitless perspective and opportunities to get there. But thinking about people who are in that phase of life where they want something different but they're not sure how to get there,
Mm.
I think for me, just going back to the intro for today, I don't always use this language of biocognition because it's just it's a new language. And one of the coolest parts of learning biocognition for me is the understanding that when we want this change or we want a shift in life, we have to be it, like we're talking about.
Mhm.
But additionally, a new language has to come along with it. And I think that's a difficult part for some people, is like the words and the actions have to align. Ultimately, you have to do it. But what is the new language? What are the new concepts? What are the new perspectives that you're willing to go out and learn, or perhaps create? Create a hybrid model, create something new. Um, yeah, and then enact outwardly in the world and embody it within yourself. So
Mm.
the question of, what does it really take then to to step into that self challenge of, I want to be better, I want to do different, but I don't know where to start.
Mm.
I think this is where the magic is when there is no finite language, because then it almost forces people into the beingness of it. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, you can't articulate it, the way that you do everything else. So you kind of have to like go into it with all of your being.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's like, thinking about the scenario that you were setting up before, it's like looking at the sunset and, understanding that you're traveling, you want to reach the other side of the horizon, but you're waiting for the sunset to change. And it's like, no, you're going to see the sunset wherever it is that you go. The thing that's changing is you.
Mhm.
Mm.
And if you're looking in that direction, then you don't realize that you just sprouted wings, or that you just grew 6 feet, or that, all of the other things that can really be magical that are happening over here, because you're looking in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
I
we have
love that. Keep going.
oh, thanks. We got a nice comment from Marvin. Welcome. Thank you so much for sharing out. We see you. Appreciate you being here. Marvin says victim mentality is no bueno. Own your shit, move on. In AA, one of the steps is when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. In other words, own your shit. Say sorry, transmute the energy.
Mhm. I like it because Steve Hardison, who's an amazing coach, he says the same thing in his own form, meaning when you do something, forgive yourself, forgive yourself, forgive yourself, and move on. Accept it, forgive yourself, move on, choose a different action. But then in that doing this type of thing, that's the thing that we always ask about stuff. All right, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? That's from here. You're trying to get from here, and this limited mind of yours are trying to figure out what you need to do, as opposed to who do I need to be, which you're coming from your heart, you're coming from your essence, your spirit, because that's the infinite part. Infinite, finite, infinite, finite. What do I need to do to live a better life? Or what do I need to do to create this? Who do I need to be to create the life of my dreams? And
Mhm.
allowing that beingness, like you're mentioning, that magic to unfold, because now you're in infinite possibilities. And it's like the universe says, like, okay, you're ready to play now. Let's play.
And I love going back to this idea of play, because, like, talking about when we're in the place that we don't have language, we can only do, we can only be, we have to model it. And isn't that the power of playing? Is that when we play, that's all we're doing, is experimenting and constructing and creating, putting structure around something. And if it doesn't work, like this in the sandbox, build a sandcastle. That's not exactly what I wanted. Just start over. It's okay. Just get rid of this piece. We don't have to be so fixated on it's
Yeah.
perfect, or oh my gosh, that's not what so and so would approve of, or that's not the right one. This isn't
Yeah.
right. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just this isn't
Yeah.
maybe functional for me right now, or
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel right. It's
Yeah.
just not the thing yet, but we're on the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. It reminds me like that fear of getting it wrong, or the fear of how others gonna perceive me if I get it wrong. So then you're gonna stick with something that you know isn't working for you, whether it's that job or a relationship or whatever it may be. You know deep down, okay, this is not working for me. Like that sandbox. It's like if the sand castle's not working, are you gonna keep building on it, keep building on it, keep building on it, or no? Now I'm gonna build a sandcastle that I would like to create.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I also like the comment that you showed, that you put up, of looking through the wrong eyes. I feel like that's just another really powerful way to go back to that horizon metaphor that we were talking about, is even if you're using somebody's eyes, the whole conversation today, right? Whose eyes really are you looking through? Whose ears are you listening with? And um,
Ooh,
right? Isn't that funny?
powerful
But to
question.
think, well, obviously it's mine. This is my thinking, but whose brain are you thinking with even? And whose
Mm.
heart am I feeling with? Going back to the
Ooh.
idea, I love what you said about leadership. There is leadership happening, but what's the being or the essence of it? And holy cow, all of a sudden I was sitting there thinking, whoa, that just blew my uh explanation of, or my understanding of why is leadership ineffective right now, because there isn't any. And here we are, there is leadership, but what's the essence of it? Where is it coming from? Ooh,
Mm.
yeah. It Leadership is everywhere, and that's why we're in the state that we're in. Hmm. Hmm.
Marvin says acceptance is the answer to all my problems. Another AA step. And also says, so I quit my florist job to start my own little business, and I'm in the creation stage. Right now I'm coaching gymnastics, and now to get it clean and bring my son, it's scary because I'm just getting by and paying the bills through the summer, but I feel I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. Marvin, you are in this exciting stage that we were just talking about, where you have a sandcastle in the sandbox, and you're like, okay, I want to build something else.
Hmm.
So it's totally okay for it to be scary, and totally okay for you to be exactly where you are. Just like you said, acceptance is huge. Once we accept, that's when we can start creating.
Hmm.
Thank you
That's
so much for sharing.
Yeah, I love that. And recognizing that sometimes it's the people that you least expect, that are just that phrase of I'm just getting by to pay my bills, or I'm just getting by. But again, if we're holding on to the vision and the feeling of where we're going, and knowing that we're on the right path and taking the right steps to get there, it's like those little tiny moments of belief, the little tiny moments of hope, that eventually just explodes, and all of a sudden we find ourselves in that place, like you said, of all of a sudden we're being what we set out to be. We're not questioning it anymore or wondering what it is, but those moments, the ups and downs, to get there, they can be really, it can be tempting to quit, it can be tempting to go back. So to not do that, to hold on to the faith in this new meaning of what faith is, this new magic in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
My,
going.
que- my curious question is, what is up and down in a journey that's linear?
That's a great question, isn't it? Yeah.
And especially with creating whatever we're looking to create in our life, the only way, and this is just my belief, the only way that we can't create what we want out of our life or whatever we want to experience in our life is we're no longer committed to creating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at that point in time, everything shifts into when you shift into the alignment phase, things feel peaceful. Things feel right. Right in a different definition again. But everything feels okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Things feel okay.
We didn't ask the question directly back to you. I forgot about that. In regards to children.
Mm. Oh man. Yeah, this is like I said, I ask this to everyone because I wonder it all of the time, but I think those two words that I shared, the adventure in relation to play and expression, for me it's all about voice. And I think of course a lot of it comes from my own growing up experience, but always having opportunity to explore and redefine, create our own definitions of what we're living and experiencing in the world, and having an outlet to voice it. Right? I think of the phrase, one of the phrases I heard a lot growing up is children are to be seen and not heard, which always meant that you had to be doing you had to be behaving yourself, like be
Mm-hmm.
quiet and behave. Because whatever
Mm-hmm.
you know and wonder and think and are curious about, whatever you're observing, because you're a kid, so you pick up on everything. It better not come out of your mouth, or hearing like the just bite your tongue and count to 10. All of that is just about holding inside of you what you're identifying at your core being, what's not right in the world. So it's about that, like everything keeps going back to the conditioning and the grooming.
Mm-hmm.
How can we
Yeah.
get rid of these models of conditioning and grooming and instead create models for adventure, play, expression, processing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm lucky for my son, and I'm grateful. The school that he's in, they actually are teaching him that.
Hmm.
So the school they're actually teaching him these type of things. So it's pretty cool. But it reminded me of another parent saying, and I'm sure that people heard it before. And let me know in the comments if you heard this as well. Do what I say, not what I do.
Mm-hmm. Maybe instead of how many of us, it's how many times did we each hear that?
So it's like I do this thing, but wait, I saw my parents do it, and now I'm getting in trouble for something that I see them doing.
Yeah, isn't that spot on? And there we go again with the modeling. You don't have to say it, you don't have to put words to it, but we're seeing it, we're taking it in, so we're gonna model exactly what we think the people that are so great in this world are doing. And then figure out if the outcome is good or not later on. But it's ultimately that question about what's the gap for kids. Sometimes I think not so much about what the kids are needing to learn or do, but instead reframing it with what are adults modeling for them again. So same kind of response, I guess, just looking at it from a different angle is maybe the kids don't necessarily need something different. What they need differently is the modeling of adults in a different way. So I love hearing that from parents. I love what you just shared about the journey with your son.
Oh yeah, I'm still learning,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm honest with him. I'm like, I'm still learning how to parent you, and I'm gonna admit that. And in the process of it, I may do some things for my own condition, and I apologize for that. But I'm still learning how to parent. I'm still learning, and obviously, I want the best for him. I don't want the best for him how I see what's best for him, but actually, I want to allow this space of being that space for him of growth, because like as a soul being, he chose this experience of me to be his father, her to be his stepmother, my son's mother to be his mother, the whole family experience. He chose this for his own soul's evolution. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at it in the realms of I'm an adult, he's a kid, because I'm looking at it at a soul level. He's an infinite being who may be even older and experienced than me. He might have been my parent. He might have been my parent in another lifetime, type of thing. So like I'm looking at it in that aspects of it, and not from a authoritative level. It's something that I heard somebody else who experienced that, in which the parenting style is like authoritative. So even with them being an adult, the parent is still talking to him as an authoritative person and telling them what to do and this type of stuff. And they're not in the space to receive it anymore. Like, wait, like you told me a lot of stuff that's not working. That didn't work for me. It may work for you, but it doesn't work. But they're afraid to actually have that conversation because of the authoritative figure type of thing going on still.
All the power plays, right? The power dynamics of, I love that. Even as you're an adult, you still, the archetypal shifts that we do based on the people that we're around or the cultural context we're in. Sometimes even finding all the work that we've done on this journey, you might fall back into being the wounded child when your phone lights up and it's your parent or an aunt or uncle calling, right? So that's a whole nother level, whole nother conversation, but goes along with that modeling and the being who you want to be.
Yeah. That sounds like it could be a part 2 of us being together, because we're at the top of the hour, but I definitely wanted to let the comments out for the couple comments that we received for here, and also want to allow you the space to share a closing message for everyone here. We went everywhere with this, but it was a powerful conversation that we had together, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think right now the biggest thing in my life that I'm really trying to reclaim is my own personal vision of what it means to just be at peace in the world, what it means to be my own sanctuary of sorts. And the word discernment keeps coming up. So as both of you have shared as well, discerning what is mine, what is not mine, what is meant for this moment and what might not be meant for this moment, to let go of everything else and just be really centered and focused on one thing in one moment. So coming back to discerning the focus of who I am and what I need and want in the world, and inviting everybody else to do the same thing. Come home to yourself. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I believe this is Marvin. I feel really good, even if on paper it don't look good. I feel so peaceful, amazing. Maybe I'll call my business neutral, balanced, peaceful. Thank you for that. Oh, showing the love for Marvin. Oh, amazing. My son is autistic, and he is seen and heard to the world very differently. His stemming is very loud. Sometimes they are nice, sometimes not, but he honestly doesn't care, so I don't. We just walk through like indifferent.
Yes.
Oh, he teaches me. He just don't care about anyone but him. I say, RJ, who do you love? And he says, RJ.
Yes.
He's honest and kind, and it's refreshing. And thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Yes. Amazing. Thank you. everyone, Marvin, and I don't know who the second person was. We appreciate you. And this was an amazing, amazing conversation. And lots of stuff that you can take for yourself to integrate. And like I always say, if you find this episode very magical, like it really is, think about one person who can benefit from this conversation that we just had. And it could be tons of people in leadership position, a parent, a child. I mean, we all a child from some parent anyway. So you, or maybe you're both, but this was a very shifting conversation and it was magical, a unique one. And Samantha, thank you so much for sharing your magic with us in this hour that flew by pretty quickly.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me, and thank you also for the demeanor and energy that the two of you bring. You're very poised and confident, but just like comfortable. It's so comfortable to be with you. So thank you for that also.
Aww.
Hmm.
And the feeling is mutual. We created this comfortable space together.
Yeah,
So you
thank you.
definitely played your part with this as well. So thank you.
Hmm.
And where can people find you, Samantha?
My website is my name, samanthalouise.co. And Instagram is where I love to connect with people. So it's the same handle, samanthalouise.co. It's where I tend to find my community, my soul family. So wherever you want to connect, one of those two places would be awesome.
There we go.
Thank you for
Everybody.
that.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again. And thank you for everyone who is tuning in and listening. And we will catch y'all next week.
Oh, you wait for me. Stay magical. You're the, oh, there you go.